So we're right in the middle of winter here in Colorado, but thanks to some warmer days before it actually began dumping snow, and thanks to our indoor facilities around here, I've been able to drill consistently. Per Scott's recommendations from episode 2, I wanted to continue focusing on footwork and continue developing my script, not just for my 3rd and 5th shots as the serving team, but also for the 2nd, 4th, and 6th shots as the receiving team. So during the past 2 weeks, I practiced the 2 drills that Scott assigned to help me with these goals. First is the 5 and dime, where one player at the kitchen begins the feed and the other player starts at the midcourt. The person at the kitchen replicates the 4th shot and hits it at the other player's feet, and they try to make their way to the kitchen. According to Scott, this is best done cross-court because the person in the transition zone can practice one of his golden rules. If the ball bounces in the transition zone, you have but one choice: drop it cross-court into the opponent's kitchen. And you can also practice a variation of this rule, which is if you can take it out of the air, drill it at your opponent in front of you. So with just 2 people in this drill, there's no one in front of you, but you can practice hitting it there anyway if the opportunity presents itself. So with 5 and dime, the person starting in the transition zone gets practice as the serving team hitting their 5th shots in this transition zone and then working their way to the kitchen. And the person at the kitchen gets practice as the receiving team starting with their 4th shot going at their opponent's feet and drilling what the 6th shot should look like. And then the 2nd drill also focuses on the 2nd and 4th shots as well as footwork. It starts with one person serving, and then the other person returns the serve, heads toward the kitchen, ending in a split step that's timed to happen as the ball hits the server's paddle. And the goal is to practice the timing of your split step so that you're already in an athletic position as the ball is on your opponent's paddle, instead of what I usually do, which is getting caught moving and off balance as the ball comes back to me. You can also just play out this drill after your serve and return and continue nailing down your game plan script as both the server on your 3rds and 5ths and the receiver on your return of serve, 4th and 6th shots. So what I found most useful about these 2 drills is developing a script for my first shot choices during a point, either as the serving team or as the receiver. And I did find that this translated well to my game when playing rec. I just had a better idea of what I wanted to do with the ball before the point even started. And the drills also helped with my split step timing, which I'm consistently late on. I often find myself in the air as the ball hits my opponent's paddle instead of having both feet on the court. This is going to take some time though, because as we'll see in the game footage, I'm still not getting low enough on the court when I should be in that DEFCON 1 position. I find that when I'm not focusing specifically on my footwork, I'm more upright and my paddle is low. So let's jump into the studio, review some game footage, and get some more help from Scott. All right, Scott, welcome in again. This is episode 3 of The Breakthrough. It's been a couple weeks, and you've been struggling still with some illness, right?
Yeah, about a month of this plague. I think I'm coming out of it a little bit. I'm super bummed. I was supposed to be in Fort Lauderdale this weekend to play with Cara Beth Lee and Patrick Cote. Sorry, guys. Couldn't make it, but I got to hunker down and got a bunch of work to do next week. I need to be healthy.
Scott, should we move on to the next section?
Key concepts.
Okay.
Sounds like I'm up.
Yes, indeed. No, take it away.
All right. As you mentioned and challenged me for our viewers a little bit, I mean, there's some nomenclature and concepts that, I talk about every day on the court. But to your credit, we want to make sure that we take our time and explain some of these terms that otherwise I may throw in while doing video analysis. And I want to talk a little bit more about serve and return. We've mentioned that already, coming off of the drills that you did last week. So let me ask you a question as we go. What is your key objective when serving?
Well, it's always been just a deep serve, and beyond that, there's like angles and stuff. But my key thing is I want to get the serve deep, whether or not it's lofty or fast or whatever. I'm looking for the deep side of the court.
Fantastic. And I don't want you to forget about that, but I want to take it and I want to put that in a slightly different column. We've got our key objective. I want to drill down on that a little bit more. And then we've got a list of tactics over here. And at the very top of the list of tactics when serving is depth. Depth is king or queen, for sure. Other tactics on this list might include spin, pace, lateral location, variety, height above the net. There's a whole bunch of good tactics in there, and variety is one of them. We want to, mix things up a little bit. If we can think about leveraging a mix of these tactics to help us achieve our key objective, let me go ahead and illustrate what I think of when I step up to serve. As I'm going to select from 2 or 3 of these over here, but in my mind, I'm clearly visualizing how can I leverage these tactics to delay the returner's forward progress to take pressure off my third. That is the number one goal, the number one objective of serving, take pressure off our third. If low and fast isn't getting the job done, I may need to try a little higher with some topspin. I may need to find a weaker wing, a backhand. I may need to apply some more spin one way or the other. The whole key is, can I take pressure off our third shot with my serve?
Right.
How's that sit with you?
No, I love it. So there's a whole menu of options to select from, and instead of focusing on those options right away, what you're focused on is, how do I get the better shot at my third? How do I weaken their return so that I have a better third shot? So it's a similar mindset, but it's shifting slightly, right? And it's more anticipating the next shot rather than how do I trick them with the serve or get them, less tennis, more kind of uniquely pickleball.
Yeah, and I think connecting the first and the third in our head pre-serve. So I mentioned pre-serve alignment and visualization. Well, the alignment part we haven't talked much about, but when we do video analysis, you'll frequently see me reminding you to slide to the left of your respective area, because we would like for you to hit a conservative topspin forehand drive for most of your thirds. You're quite good at it, and dropping it into the kitchen is hard. So, that's what we're visualizing. So the alignment is, for a right-handed player who likes their forehand, let's slide to the left, whether you're the server or the server's partner. And let's visualize 80-90% of the time, if we serve with the key objective in mind, that we're going to jump on that return as soon as it bounces. Let's manage the clock and get that ball back to them while they're still in the transition area. That's the visual. That's the purpose of the serve, to set up our bread and butter third.
Sounds great.
All right. So the flip side here is, I'll kind of throw it back to you. With all of that in mind that we just talked about, what could we articulate as our key objective for return of serve?
So I can tell you what I typically do is try to get it deep, and usually in the middle, because it creates confusion. So that's kind of my number one priority, returning the serve.
Cool. Yeah, and just like before, those are really good tactics up there, but using the same terminology that we just laid out for serve, I would suggest that we visualize our key objective for return of serve to put pressure on their third shot. As servers, we want to take pressure off our third. As returners, put pressure on. Now we have a list of tactics for doing that. Great news, same list. Over here, which we've laid out pretty clearly. You'll probably add some notes to it as well. But yeah, we're going to need to vary the height and the time and the depth and the spin and the pace and the location in order to be able to put pressure on their third. One thing converting tennis players are really good at, from the perspective of the other guys, is they hit low fast returns pretty regularly. I love it when a low fast return comes back, because I can wager fairly accurately that tennis player is stuck in the midcourt when it's time for me to hit a mid-paced conservative topspin drive, because they haven't given themselves enough time. So if I'm over there coaching them, it's like, let's go back to our tactics list. You need to manage the clock better. So we may need some height over the net. We need to cherish depth more than pace. Give yourself a little bit more time to put more pressure on their third.
Okay. So really, it's all on both sides, servers and receivers. It's all about the third.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the keys are, we're thinking ahead. We're thinking ahead. It's not just one shot at a time.
Right.
What's next?
All right, Scott, anything else in key concepts?
I think we're good. I think it's more than enough for a week.
Yeah. Okay. It's all food for thought. Now let's move into the Ask Scott segment. So we have some really good viewers asking great questions each week. And if you want to ask Scott questions, leave them in the comments section of the YouTube video. And our first one comes from Joe Puglia, who says, after watching episode 2, I was struck with how low John keeps his paddle when at the net. Wonder what Scott's thoughts are on this.
Well, first of all, hey, Joe. Good to see you up there in Canada. Joe and his wife came down for a session of Boulder Pickleball a couple months ago.
Oh,
which
cool.
was really cool to see. So glad you're following the show. And really great question. There are times when we've done video analysis that John's paddle is too low, but not all the time. And I'm also not looking for John, when he's at the non-volley zone, to have his paddle up in a defensive position 100% of the time. And as you said earlier, like in a crab walk position, I don't need you in that heightened state of defense 100% of the time, which sounds a little surprising. When your or your partner's ball is in the air, you have a period of time, not a long period of time, but during that period of time, you and your partner may adjust your court position. You may follow the trajectory of yours or your partner's shot and adjust from side to side in your spot. And that's when I don't mind when you get tall and float into the desired position. You have all of that time until the ball gets onto one of your opponent's paddles. Mm-hmm. At that point, we need to achieve our DEFCON 1 position, which starts with a pronounced dynamic split step. If I were looking at you from across the net, I'd see you get shorter, and then in between you'd get taller. Right. So we're not just stuck in that low position the whole time. So we're going to make that dynamic split step, and then we're going to raise your choice of shields. It may be that excellent backhand counter of yours, or occasionally we're going with the forehand shield. Mm-hmm. So if while their ball is in the air coming this way, if your paddle is low, that doesn't bother me any. But as I take my eyes off of you as your opponent, that's a good time to achieve your DEFCON 1 position. Split step, raise your shield, gather intel, advanced knowledge from what you know about your opponents, and fully anticipate and react to a potential speed up. Odds are he's just going to dink cross court, but you may as well go through this process each time. Make that dynamic split step, raise the shield, and get ready for the possible speed up.
Right. I love it. So paddle location, obviously conditional on where you are in the point. Are your opponents hitting up on the ball? Do they have a potential to speed up? But we'll see. I do have a tendency to kind of keep my paddle too low, similar to like a J.W. Johnson stance, but I don't have the cat-like reflexes and amazing anticipation of J.W. Johnson, so I should err on the side of caution. So point taken there for sure. A key concept that was really useful to me, as I was kind of a year ago in my journey through pickleball, was the idea like of a teeter-totter on the when you're across from your opponents at the kitchen. So you hold your paddle up if their paddle is low, and you hold it down if their paddle is high. So if they're like this, you're going to get in the crab stance and hold your paddle super low. Is that a valid concept?
No problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem with that. The advice that I offered was the dink from you or your partner was likely low. Their paddle was likely below net level. Mm-hmm. So the teeter-totter for you guys, paddle's going to be up.
Right.
My hopefully key concept there is it doesn't have to be up the entire time the rally is going on.
Right.
You can float, you can adjust your court position, and just as they take their eyes off of you, that's when you raise your shield, which is rather confounding because they're never watching you raise your shield. They don't really know if you're backhand or forehand shield because they're too busy hitting their shot.
Okay. So there might be an advantage to kind of not telegraphing where you're holding your paddle as when they can see you, but being ready, and then as they bend down and turn their head away from you.
Sure. Yeah, now we're just playing chess at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right, second question from BCABLIG. Calblig. Scott, a higher cornhole style drop into the kitchen usually results in a higher bounce, so net level or higher, allowing opponents to attack. Acceptable, or should your loftier drops still be low enough that the bounce is unattackable?
Good question. I'm going to go ahead and answer that by suggesting that too high is better than too low. Too far is a problem. Too far is sometimes people confuse and conflate too high and too far. Mm-hmm. I think our questioner here has it in mind. They're realizing that the shape of the shot was a little high and it bounced a little high. Let's tap back into this cornhole analogy. If you've played some cornhole, not even well, the trajectory of the beanbag toss is not super high. It's, maybe 6 feet, or so. And the beanbag lands softly. But even if you're tossing a pickleball and it's cornhole trajectory, that's probably not going to bounce above net height. I'm fine with that. But if it does happen to bounce above net height. I've seen the mistake too often where both of the players one of them hit this reset or drop shot, stay back because they're worried about it bouncing too high. I don't suggest that. My suggestion is that's about as good as this rally's going to get. And my adage here is if we get it to bounce, we pounce. All right? If you stay back, I just don't see you getting a better opportunity. Doesn't mean you're going to win all of these rallies, but it is an opportunity to adjust your court position. One of the reasons why I've come to this conclusion is sitting in the broadcast booth at the U.S. Open last year, I had a chance to commentate on a number of great matches, including Andre Diescu's match. Now, Andre has like a 99% success rate with his third shot drops. Some of them are a little higher than you guys. And he and his partner don't stay back and wait for an optimal height. They come in, they achieve a split step in a DEFCON 1 position, and more often than not, what ensues is a 4-person ritual kitchen exchange. He would like it to have been a little bit lower, but if he's going to err, it's going to be on the high side, not on the low side. And because he's one of the top pros in the game, few, if any of them, are too far. He's found the apex that he needs on his side of the net. For most third shot drops, that's right over the kitchen line on our own side, not over the net.
Right.
If we aim for the net, that's just a little bit too far.
Sure.
So, back to the question. Yeah, too high is a little bit of a problem, but not nearly as big a problem as too low. My suggestion is don't compound the problem by staying back and waiting for a better drop. I don't think you're going to get one.
Sure. And when you say too high is better than too low, you're not referring to the bounce. You're referring to too low hits the net.
Too low hits the net.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying.
Right. And yeah, so one thing when I'm hearing you talk about this, when it bounces, if it bounces, then pounce, right? Yeah. Is it important at that point to also be cognizant of when that ball is hitting your opponent's paddle and being set with your split step at that point?
Absolutely.
Because you don't want to just run through if it bounces and get caught, if they speed it up at your shoulder or something as you're moving forward.
Sure. And the universal advice on split step timing is you guys, after you hit your drop shot, have, while your ball is in the air, time to adjust your court position. Forward, sideways, back, whatever you want to do. In this case, forward, until the ball's on our paddle. And then 100% of the time, we need a dynamic split step, load the springs, gather intel, and then adjust course from there. So yeah, we're not going to run right through just to get to the non-volley zone. You'll probably not make it to the non-volley zone, but you might get close, and we need a split step when the ball is on their paddle. I know for sure that if you hit a too high drop shot in my direction, and it bounces up kind of high, that I get ready to hit the shot. And if I don't see you or your partner in my peripheral vision, I never miss that shot. I hit that right back at your feet. And we win most of those rallies. But out of the corner of my eye, if I spot you or your partner coming at me, raise your hand if you've hit that ball into the net tape.
Yeah.
I have.
Right.
Just last second micro tweak. I'm going to get a little bit lower so I don't get my partner killed.
Right.
With this shot, I've hit the net tape. So just by applying pressure on the too high drop shot, it can frequently work out by forcing an error.
For sure. All good stuff, Scott. Okay. Should
we having fun?
Yeah, I'm loving it.
All right.
All right. Next question, last question from user 86309.
8675309.
Right. What's that?
Must be over age 50.
So, big question in my mind is, after the gains have been made, how do you not regress? What tactics or techniques can Scott suggest for not letting the newly acquired skill atrophy and regress?
And this was the question I had previewed, that I referenced earlier. As you're going through the process of ownership of a new skill, tactic, or strategy, on the lesson court with me, we can get you, hopefully, to the point where you've borrowed that skill or tactic. By the way, when you're on the lesson court with me, and when you guys are in a lesson or a clinic setting, that is not the time for your best play. Just remove that pressure from yourself. As pros, coaches, instructors on the other side, we want to see you screw up. We don't want to see how great you are. That's the time to try new things. You don't have the reps yet. Try new things, make the mistakes, get the corrective advice during that hour and a half. So don't put so much pressure on yourselves to play well during lessons. That's first. So my goal would be to get you to borrow a new skill, tactic, or strategy in a lesson setting. Then I would like you to take it upon yourself to move to the lease stage. So that's drilling, ball machine, specific intentional practice time. We might be able to move that towards the lease phase, but we're not going to get to ownership until you've put it into competitive play. Now, that competitive play doesn't need to be a tournament setting. It'd be nice to maybe get to ownership before we spend the money to go to a tournament. And it's a great use of rec play. And frequently, people play rec at or above their level. And they say the only way to get better is to play better players. It's a way to get better. But at the same time, if you can play down a quarter level or a half a level, you'll have very little anxiety, and you have the freedom to try to incorporate into your rec play some of these skills, tactics, and strategies that you're working on with the goal of moving it from lease to ownership. And that's a great time to do it. I think I've made a lot of progress over the years when I've played down just a little bit, and then I can really focus on incorporating something new.
I love this analogy of borrowing, leasing, and owning. It does really make a lot of sense. And as an aside, to your point of playing up or down or to your own level, I think it was when I was starting, I got a lot of advice: play higher level players because your game will improve. But I also heard James Ignatowicz talk about this on his podcast. He said it's good to have a balance. He recommends playing people better than you 20% of the time, you being the best person on the court 25% of the time, so 25, and then 50% of the time you're playing people at your level. Is that kind of, because he says if you play people that are better than you all the time, you're going to develop defensive habits because your speed ups and stuff isn't going to work on people above you, so you're constantly going to be defensive, and you don't want to develop those habits. Is that kind of where you are too?
Yeah, I've had the good fortune of playing rec with the best in the world, and I can specifically remember a rec game against Riley Newman, and I was deer in the headlights. I played okay, but I certainly was not incorporating anything new and moving this tactic from lease to ownership. I was just playing my basic set, just hang in there and, make my partner look good and play good defense. And that's of value, but it's not a great environment for incorporating new things.
Sure. And back to your points, your key points here. Okay, so we can borrow tactics and techniques, we can lease them, and we can own them. So borrowing them, I assume, comes from lessons. It comes in the sense of getting lessons and drilling. And drilling probably spans the gap between borrowing and leasing, I would say, right?
Sure.
And ownership is kind of mastery of that technique. And you're saying that you want to enter competitions and play competitive play mostly at the ownership level, but also bringing in some lease materials as well. Is that kind of an accurate representation? Okay.
Yeah.
So how long, I'm sure it varies based on the shots or techniques, but how long does it take to achieve mastery?
I think, as you mentioned, it really depends on the shot. I presented something today that I would like our viewers to own within a week. Pre-serve, visualization, and alignment. Take a deep breath. Let's align to favor the wing that I prefer for my third shot. And let's visualize, if they return the ball to me, I'm likely to hit the ball back at the feet of the returner, not at the stationary player who's standing there with their paddle up and raised. That doesn't need a year worth of all of this progress. But when we talk about a mid-court transition area, half volley reset cross court, a year. For a 3-5,
right?
To get there. Less for you. I look forward to viewing video later, but I know that's one of the shots that you have. Is it mastered? Maybe not, but I think it's in the ownership category. And then, we'll just develop the analogy like what comes beyond ownership. I guess mastery's over here, and tune in for another show. We'll figure out how that works.
God level. All right. Great questions. And like I said, if you do have questions, leave them in the comments section. We may pick it up for our next episode. Let's move on to seemingly everyone's favorite segment, so analyzing tape. So for this week, I just want to preface this with I shot several games and different days to to both for paddle reviews and potentially to use for you to analyze. And there was, and speaking, going back to one of the commenters who was talking about regressing, the last question that you took. There was one game where I brought my camera and I was like, this is going to be the night where we film for Scott's analysis. And I played horribly. I went to Lifetime Fitness with 3 good friends, but I don't, excuse here, I don't normally play at night, and we played from 7 to 9:30 or something, so I was feeling pretty tired. And I couldn't get anything to work. I haven't played that bad in, a year or so. And so that was, I don't think it's useful to show how garbage I can actually play, and I get plenty of garbage even when I'm playing well. So I chose a different game, different day, and in this particular game, I played pretty well for my standards. There's still plenty to critique.
Looks like we're going to go into some mixed doubles here, and I'm hoping that you and Mari, who's a left-handed player, have done a little bit of discussion. Even she's Japanese, a little language barrier. But I'm looking forward to seeing you play some aggressive mixed doubles here, hopefully.
Yeah. So this is at Boulder Pickleball, your spot.
Good spot.
Right. And we've got Jason Caroline on the opponent's side and me and Mari on my side, our side. I didn't put dupers up here, but Caroline has the highest duper of anybody on the court at 4.4, I think. Jason is right with me at 4.2. I don't know Mari's, but she's very similar to the rest of us.
Yeah. Great. I'm looking forward to checking this out. Anything about this game that we should know? Just kind of a representative rec game.
Yeah, representative rec game, and I played above average for the way I was playing that day. And my goal was to be a little more aggressive as a mixed doubles partner. That's something that most of my mixed doubles partners have told me, be big in the middle. You're taller than me. Right. Use your reach and trying to be more decisive and take more of the court. So
let's see how that works out.
Let's go.
We're going to focus mostly on John, but there may be some other play that's worth commenting on. I like the Ernie attempt. All right, fantastic. Let's go back and look at that again. Okay. So my Ernie meter is pegged right now. I think yours is too. You may have even thought of that before the shot. So if we can wait just a little bit to get Jason's eyes off of you before you commit, we might have gotten the Ernie ball out of that. I think he catches you out of the corner of his eye.
I see.
And hits a pretty nice reset, in that case.
Okay.
So let's go on. Okay, Mari dinks to Jason. You're tracking the ball, and the little voice bubble over your head should already be saying, from what I know about Jason and the relative height of this dink, I think he's going to do something spicy, with this ball. So we need to be looking for a pretty pronounced DEFCON 1 position here versus a much more benign dink from Mari. This one looks like it's going to get punished a little bit. And this is right about now, I need you pretty ready for that. As luck would have it, Jason makes a subtle mistake here. He tries to find space between the two of you. Not a great idea with your length, and we've got a righty-lefty. A couple of forehands in the middle. This ball's a little low for Jason to try to go for a one-shot knockout. I wouldn't have minded if I were coaching Jason in real time to take this ball right at your chest, because it's pretty exposed at this point. But by taking a ball below net level and trying to find the gap between the two of you, it didn't really require much. I mean, not a lot of leg movement here from you, but you get a paddle on it, it comes back too quickly, and that's all she wrote. So good news, bad news.
Right.
Not a DEFCON 1 position. I'd like to see more pronounced split step, shield raise sooner, and anticipate the speed up.
So I need to be lower for sure. I had a backhand shield even though it was down here.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to go backhand shield, probably up here, but I have a feeling, I know what happened was it came to my forehand, but I have a feeling I should have been more forehand shield at that point and lower. Does it matter to you if I'm backhand or forehand right there?
It doesn't matter to me. I like that you have the ability to do both, but you need to commit and you need to play defense with that side of the paddle pretty much no matter what.
Okay.
So had you gotten your backhand shield up, maybe even sliding to your right to play the defense with the backhand, because I don't want you to have to guess backhand, forehand.
Okay.
Sort of identified that maybe players under 30, maybe under 35, maybe have the hand-eye coordination and the reflexes to do a better job than a senior player. If this is their ready position right here, I don't think we can play defense with this side of the paddle, right here. So we're going to have to commit one way or the other.
Okay.
And above 30, 35, let's commit to one, whether it's the backhand or the forehand.
Okay.
Any guesses why I'm stopping here?
Yeah, well, judging from episode 2, I need to be moved further to the center of the court, toward the center line, to open up my forehand. Right? Is that where you're going?
Yeah. So we've got a lefty on your team, and it's mixed double, so we're stacking. So for a couple of reasons, I'd like to see you further to the left. If you weren't stacking, I'd still want to see you further to the left for 2 reasons. It will be easier to get the ball to Jason's backhand when you're serving from the middle, and then you're clearly setting up a forehand third. Compound it by the fact that you're stacking, you're going to need to hustle to your left. So let's get a little closer to the middle so that you can get to your left and make sure you hit a forehand for the next ball.
Okay.
So mixed, you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. It looks like it's manifesting as you're going to claim this third. I want to introduce another option here, because right now the two of you are on one side of the court. You drive this ball. I don't know how it works out, but your entire side of the court is open. And in this particular case, you're playing with a partner who's lefty and has a pretty mean forehand drive.
Right.
I've seen it. So if I'm coaching your team, I'm probably suggesting let's let Mari take more of these thirds, because if I want you to be more aggressive, I'd like to see that on the 5th.
Okay.
If Mari drives or drops, you can get in the midcourt, use your length and athleticism and dynamic movement to put away a 5th or coax a mistake out of their 4th just by your presence in the middle of the court. But if you hit this third and Mari's behind you, there's no pressure, coming from the 5th.
Okay.
So let's see how it works out. You want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say, mindset being aggressive, but be aggressive smarter, and don't. So I like the idea of thinking about, okay, my partner is left-handed. She has a good forehand. I'll hang back or hang over and take that 5th in case it's a pop-up. So, definitely I wasn't thinking that far ahead. So just another example of having a game plan and being more strategic.
Yeah, and depending upon how Mari's hitting her forehand, this day, you don't have to hang back. I mean, I would want you 2 or 3 steps ahead of Mari on the left side of the court as she gets ready to strike the ball.
Right.
And then you get to play red light, green light from there. If they hold their paddle up, well, maybe hold. But if they're down, lower, then we can pounce.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Well, it worked out, but
it did work out. But you had to handle the shake and the bake duties yourself.
Right.
And the drive was good. It was low. It found a weak spot in Jason's armor, and he popped that ball up. I think you made that put away because you had a great split step, and you were not caught off guard when that ball came back quickly. Let's take one look at that real fast. The split step is a little late, but here it is. And then you realize I don't have to stay here and wait for the ball. That's the key. A split step is not a split stop. You don't have to stay there.
Right.
Make your split step, read and react, and you go, oh, well, I elicited a pop-up. Let's close. And the thing I like so much about this one is we get this ball down. We don't need massive pace on this ball. Let's just get it nice and low, and that won the rally.
Yeah.
All right, it's a great move. Let's go back just a little bit. Mari's return is super deep. I love that. As a left side player, when she returns, look how beautifully you come to the middle and cause stress for their third. So remember back to our key objectives when returning. Put pressure on their third. Mari does her job in a way by getting a nice deep return. She's on her way. I wouldn't mind if she was a little bit closer, but you as her partner can add to that objective by causing stress yourself. And by coming to that middle, it's a tiny court and you're a long player. I mean, you can commit even more. Don't worry about Mari at this point. Here's another saying that I'm fond of in this case. The player closest to the net has first dibs. If you see a Mari-shaped figure out of your peripheral vision, well, maybe you let her take it. But in this case, you didn't. And you can wager that if you let this ball go, it's going to end up below the waist of the partner. You get to get this ball above net level. Your partner would not. So it's not so much a poach as it is sliding over and protecting the feet of your partner on her way in.
Right.
And whether male, female, doesn't matter. The player closest to the net should be making this kind of move. And Mari helps set you up for that with a nice down-the-line return.
Yeah, and being on the receiving end of this kind of play, it throws my timing off when people do this because I'm seeing Mari coming in, ball hit toward her, and I'm timing what I think is going to be her hit, and it comes back, half a second sooner, and I think that's why it went down the middle and nobody got to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good stuff here. Great posture, great balance. By taking that dynamic step to your right, you keep your shoulders fairly level. The left arm is out for balance. And even with your right foot, you open up your foot to the right so that we don't have a non-volley zone infraction. So really good stuff. Keep that wrist firm at contact a bit.
Right.
Any guesses why I'm stopping here?
No, I don't have any guesses.
I tripped you up a little bit.
You did.
Let's put this on your homework list. I would like you to experiment in low-key rec, starting with your back against the wall, whether you're returning serve or you're the server or the server's partner.
Okay.
I want you to use the full 8 to 10 feet behind the baseline. What is the only thing on the list of potential negatives if you start with your back against the wall here?
Or you don't have room for a backswing.
If you stayed there, yes. But in this case, I think Caroline is serving in your direction. She sees your back up against the wall.
So she could drop it short.
She could hit that dinky little short serve.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only thing on the negatives list. On the upside, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that you're going to step in, you're going to move your center of mass into the ball, you're going to get a little head start in moving forward, and we're protecting better against a deep serve. Right now, if Caroline puts this 2 inches from the baseline, she might achieve her key objective, which is to back you up and slow you down. I don't want you to do that. I want you to start as far back as the court dimensions will allow so that you can be moving forward to put pressure on their third, not take pressure off their third.
Okay.
So that's on the homework list.
All right.
Let's try for a couple weeks. You're not ready until your back is against the fence or against the wall.
Okay.
And then go from there. And then you can report back how that goes.
Perfect.
Good split step. Oh, we got some lefty action. And another lefty. That was a fun point. All right, let's kind of pick it up from here a little bit. So I think these guys let you get away with this, let's call it a fourth.
Yeah.
If I were Jason, I might have slid over and gotten that ball, or Caroline could have gotten that out of the air. So we get away with that. Caroline does a nice, here's your half volley. She's using the ball while it's energized. She doesn't need a lot of movement with her paddle and gets that ball to reset nicely. It doesn't need to bounce. It just needs to be something that you hit up. And now they're closing. So now we need a heavier spin sixth, a heavy fourth or a heavy sixth. Lots of top spin. The goal is to get the ball at their feet. I even visualize, can I get them to mishit it because I get enough junk on the ball? Top spin, a little bit of side spin. You can't really use pace or depth here, but we can use spin to try to neutralize their advancing court position a little bit.
Okay. How would you recommend I generate that spin with my stroke? So you see me, I'm able to reach in a little further if my paddle is straight down. However, if I'm doing this, but holding it sideways, I'm losing a little bit of length there. So what kind of stroke are you looking for more top spin?
I do want the paddle below your wrist. I want your grip tension and your wrist tension loose at this point. This is a good time for wrist. I do want you to, and the visual that I'll give you and our friends watching, is to open the doorknob counterclockwise. So that's going to look like
Okay.
this. So it has to start below and then open the doorknob counterclockwise. An easy ball machine drill, to be able to practice. Just get a ball that's slightly below net level, give yourself a target on the other side in the midcourt, and then see if you can apply more and more RPMs of topspin. The one other thing that I'll offer for you is if this is the ball that I'm getting ready to hit, I don't want to hit down here at 6 o'clock on the ball. As a right-handed player, I want to get over here at 5 o'clock or 4:30. So it's going to be about 80% topspin and 20% side spin. It's just due to the nature of the equipment that we're using. We wager that we get a little more dwell time on the ball by brushing over from side to top, from 5 to 11, not so much 6 to 12, which might work with strings and felt, but not so much with pickleball.
Right. No, that it's good to hear because that's my natural tendency on those shots to generate spin. It's never just entirely top spin. It's kind of that sideways.
Yeah, and that's
spin.
when you may get that ball to hit Jason's edge guard. If that ball bounces a little funny, he may not get it in the center.
Okay.
And by not getting this ball low enough, I love Caroline's move.
Look at that.
Right here. Yeah. Why is this her ball?
She's in front of Jason.
Yeah, it's not so much forehands and backhands at this point. She's ambidextrous. It's because player closest to the net has first dibs. And she jumps on this ball. And then you guys make some fantastic defense to get this ball back. I think you're already anticipating because you knew that your sixth shot was up a little bit. You needed to get your shield ready. That's great defense. You committed to backhand shield. It's going to be a backhand stop. I like the hockey goalie analogy at this point. Like once you commit to backhand shield, well, hockey goalie's not going to use this side of the shield. They're going to slide this way and use this side of the stick or the waffle, on that side. So this is a great waffle save. Here, did you play some hockey growing up?
No, I never did.
Okay, well, here's your chance. All right, great save here. And now we get a lefty. Caroline is full send at this point. Jason's going to go to the I formation. Caroline uses the left hand. Get this ball nice and low. That's the key here. Oh, a whiff, a pop-up, and I think Mari kind of ends the thing here. And there we go. That was fantastic.
Good all around. I mean, great on Caroline for taking that aggressive shot and caught me chicken winged. I just happened to get it back and was able to hit the next one down. And even Jason was able to hit the ball after it went past Caroline. It just worked out in our favor that time, but all good stuff. All around.
Great rally. Good time management on the switch. Uh-oh. I don't know what's going to happen here, but let's go back just a little bit.
That's exactly the expression Jason's
I know.
wanting, right? Both of us are grimacing.
Yeah, so good for them for getting their reset below net level. This is the time, perhaps with two hands, to go with some heavier spin. Okay. We're not going to be able to use pace or depth. Jason's closing off the landing area. So we've got to get that ball to bounce at his feet. If it's one hand, not a bad time to drop the tip of the paddle a little bit. You mentioned J.W. Johnson. Ben uses more shoulder. J.W. uses a little bit more wrist. Either way, if we could get some more spin on this ball to get it down at Jason's feet, then he won't be able to attack Mari.
Okay. Yeah, that was great recognition from Jason. Just
fantastic.
That.
Yeah, and that's, in the midcourt, we have but two options. If it bounces, cross-court, cornhole trajectory reset, or get it out of the air, drill it at the player closest to you, which you did a great job with. Great deep serve, short return, no pressure on the third. Well, that's how pickleball is played. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving the leaving the potential open to either hit it hard or just tap it at their feet, And leaning toward that second option is a newer aspect of my game. Because I've made too many, you've seen a couple of today where I have the ball and I mishit it into the net or it goes a mile long, So I've been trying to take it calm and be more strategic with my placement.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because right here, we're on this journey from 4.2 to 4.6. The 4.6 plus player looks at this and says, well, it's a no-brainer. I can get this ball low to Jason. He's in the midcourt. I can achieve a great job of getting us to the non-volley zone quickly here and neutralize the rally. I'm going to take that. Why would I go with the home run strikeout possibility here? a whole bunch of 4-0s are going to tee off on this ball. Some of them are going to be fantastic and highlights. Too many of them go in the fence or the net tape. So I'm so glad you identified that. When I get this type of return, I don't tee off. I just hit this ball with some spin, low to Jason's feet, maybe to his backhand side, just like you did. And that's a tough reset. I don't want to have to deal with that reset over there. Mari closed off the straight ahead, and Jason puts it in the net for us. And that's all she wrote.
That's a wrap. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Got some good points in there. Great instruction. I think there was a lot of good analytical potential in this game, and a lot to work on.
Yeah. Do you have any key takeaways yourself?
Yeah, I think the main thing that's sticking in my head is remembering that Mari is a lefty and she does have a good forehand, and to think about the fifth shot where I can take over the court rather than taking a third shot from Mari. Now it worked out a couple of times in our advantage because I was able to catch Jason coming in with the harder drive. He wasn't expecting. He got a pop up, and I baked my shake. But I think it would higher probability is to let Mari take those shots and be ready for a pop up as a fifth shot.
So when we think about breaking through 4-5 in our duper rating, we're going to want to look for partners, let's say specifically in mixed, maybe a lefty or a righty with a confident backhand. Because it would be best to leverage your skills to have your partner take that third and let you do your thing. You're likely to be longer, taller, more powerful. And I would like to see you causing havoc in the midcourt on fifths. Okay. So as we look for partners, who's out there in mixed or maybe men's that's comfortable taking thirds with their backhand.
Perfect. Well, Scott, let's move on to homework.
Okay.
So you already mentioned one piece of homework, which I already forgot. I remember you bringing it up, but I can't remember the specifics. As we were watching the gameplay, I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, do you have any prescribed homework this week?
I have a couple of thoughts. One is a fun drill, and the other is a way to better leverage your rec play.
Okay.
With the goal of achieving ownership, during the rec play. The first one is a 2 versus 1 drill. Sometimes you lose your fourth player in the last minute, and then you kind of hustle around to try and grab a fourth, and they end up being a jerk, and that was no fun. Take the opportunity to enjoy 3 of you on the court, or 3 of you get there early, or 3 of you stay late. It's a 2 versus 1 kitchen-based game where we get the chance to isolate 3 key areas of responsibility, 3 different areas of responsibility. We'll say we've got 2 players over here on this side and 1 player over here on that side. This player is the designated dinker. All they're doing is dinking cross-court to that player. This player has the fun job. They're the designated instigator. They're looking for an opportunity to speed up, but likely a ball that's below net level, not attackable. But they get a chance to practice 20, 30, 40 times, speeding up at this player over here, who is the designated defender. DEFCON 1, shield up, ready for a speed up at all times. So this player over here has a tough job. This guy has the script. He knows it's coming. But if you can find a weakness in their armor and get a pop-up out of this guy, now we're getting somewhere. Because when we play rec, they don't have the script. They don't know it's coming. Designated dinker, designated defender, designated instigator over here.
And so you're saying, 2 people on one side of the court, one person on the other. The side of the court that has 2 people. The person on the right is the designated dinker. I assume they feed the ball to the designated instigator, the one by him or herself on the one side. But they don't have to instigate every ball. It's not like one shot, instigate, defend,
correct.
But it's cross-court dinking or even dinking to your partner.
Sure, you could dink straight ahead on occasion. Yep.
So it's a dink game.
Right.
And the person by themselves is looking to instigate, and when they do, they're going to go directly at their opponent, straight across the net from them.
Correct. Yes, and good clarification is there should be some dinking that goes on, and this player over here is jabbing, sparring, dinking with this player over here with the objective of getting, let's say, a knee-high ball that they can lean in and get out of the air, surprise this player who maybe thought it was going to bounce, and then leverage the proximity and the surprise to get this player to pop the ball up.
Right.
So some dinking back and forth, look for an opportunity. I prefer that they instigate a ball out of the air, but in this practice session, we may as well practice speeding up some balls off the bounce so that we can enhance our acting skills, because balls off the bounce we telegraph most of the time. Let's use this drill to enhance our acting and not telegraph it quite as much.
And the person on the left, the defender, designated defender, that doesn't mean they're only going to reset. If they get a instigated shot and they can slam it at the feet and practice putting that ball away. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a great opportunity to practice, am I going to softly reset or am I going to aggressively counter?
Okay.
You can try both. You can have a game plan in advance. This round, I'm going to reset everything that the instigator sets at me. Next round, I'm going to try to counterattack every one of them. Next round, I'm not going to give myself advanced suggestions. I'm going to try to go with the flow and see what works best.
Yeah. This one, I remember you had us doing this at Scott Squad, your kind of clinic you run at Boulder Pickleball, and it was my favorite of the drills that you had us work on. And I remember thinking, wow, why didn't I ever think of this, particularly for 3 people? Because sometimes it ends up where, like you said, one person didn't show up or more than one person wants to drill, and you can have 4 people, just have one person, sitting on the side. And the goal is to rotate, right? So play 10 points or whatever and then rotate clockwise so that everybody gets the chance to play each role.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, get a healthy amount of reps with the positions and then rotate one. And as you mentioned, if there's a 4th player, they can be corralling balls and keeping the drill going. Okay. Then they get to rotate in. So if there's 3 players, we would do 3 rotations. Then let's take the designated instigator from the right side, put them on the left side. Okay. Now the designated dinker is over here. We're having this dink rally. They're looking to instigate at the player directly across from them.
Great.
Super fun.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good
wear eye
too.
protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend it.
All right. So 2v1. That's the first drill.
Yes.
Do you have another?
Yeah, not so much a drill, but a mindset for rec play. We want to look at rec play as an opportunity to take least skills and tactics and move them over to ownership. If we have no game plan for rec play, that may happen, but it's just going to take too long. Okay. So my suggestion is the first 5 points of the game, we want singular focus. One topic that you're going to take from your drilling and from your lessons, and you're going to focus on exclusively for the first 5 points of the game. Let the rest of the rally just sort of take, whatever shape it needs to. For example, it could be a split step. 100% of the time that the ball is on their paddle on the other side, you're going to focus on your split step. That would be a great thing to focus on. Let the rest of it kind of follow. Okay. You could give yourself a 5 mile an hour speed limit, which is another way of saying, let's find ways other than power to win this rally. Not a bad thing to do when you're playing down. Right. So if you happen to be the best player on the court, go ahead and give yourself that 5 mile an hour speed limit and see if you can't find ways to use angles and lobs and misdirection and variety and spin. Let's harness those things. Yeah. It's a great way to work on that. It makes it a lot more fun when you're the best player on the court as well. You could decide I'm going to drive all thirds, no matter what. Right. You could decide I'm going to drop all thirds for the first 5 points. And you can decide when we get to 5, all right, fine, let's focus on getting to 11 first. But those first 5, singular focus. So let's call it the singular focus mindset. I like it. So you're the only one doing that. So it's not as you can mention it to your partner if you want to take part, but it's just you. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something you want to work on. It might be something you want to experiment with to see if it does work, like the driving every third thing. Okay. No, I love that. Yeah. You don't have to spend the whole game, but let's just take a part of the game and commit to a singular focus, something you've been working on. Great. Sounds like a plan. All right. That's going to keep you busy for the next 2 weeks. That's it, right? That's Those 2 drills? That's it. Yeah, well, this was a great episode. I feel like everything's coming together tech-wise. Yeah. And hopefully there's no glares in the screen. You got your controller. I'll work on my homework. We'll meet back here in 2 weeks and do it all over again. Sounds good. All right, Scott. Thanks so much. Thanks, John. Thanks, you guys.